were fortunate enough to win, but our expectations are higher than that, and our standard is higher than that, and we did not play to that standard tonight.
What up, though, people? Welcome back to Wake Up Woodward. It's your boy Brandon, aka Detroit Koolaid, your credentialed Pistons reporter and writer for the network. Flannel Sam, ball knower, Red Wings correspondent, all sports knower. And you know what? I wanted to start with that clip because that was after the Hornets game. When it's like, hey, they got another win. They handled business. It was a little bit like, hey, why did it get to 7? Why did the league close on the 7? And you saw him step to the podium and say, that's not acceptable. When it's time to handle business, it's BTA. It was crazy to see him step to the podium and say that a year after Monty Williams at the helm. It did not look like this then. And then Jalen Duren stepped to the podium and said, this ain't cool. No, if we have a chance to go out there and effectively put our foot on their necks, we have to do that. Yeah. And what did they do against the Bulls, bro? At halftime, it was 71-29. And it won 132-92. Malik Beasley sets the Detroit Pistons single season 3-point record with what, 28 games to go?
Yeah. Bye-bye, Sadiq Bey.
Like, it's so much going right now for this Pistons team that moved to 28-26. They're a game out of 5th place, 2 games out of 4th place, man. And this is where I like the question we're going to get into a little bit later about their ceiling. But just to focus at least in on this game right now, this is how you want to see them look. Everybody got playing time, including Lindy Waters.
Hey, shout out Lindy Waters. I don't think he's going to do much for this team.
That was not very enthusiastic at all.
I was not very confident at all in this man.
He's got some human victory cigar vibes, but that's all right. Shout out Lindy Waters.
Hey, and so you know what? Let's get Rod Beard in, drum rolled in for the Woodward Pistons segment. Hey, yo! Shout out and welcome to the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard. And you know what? Asking the trainer, I see you, brother. He was like, see you in San Fran. See you down there for All-Star, man. I cannot wait. Rod, I can't wait. They let me in there, bro. Do they understand the problem that's going to be?
You're a security risk. You're a security risk.
You're right.
But, hey, take it away with Rod's thoughts, man. These Detroit Pistons, 28-26. They have one more game. They can be at the All-Star break up 3 games above 500 and be in a position to really take hold of that 5th seed on the other side of that All-Star break. Rod's thoughts. Take it away, brother.
I ran some numbers. Real quick, do the Pistons have their longest losing streak or longest winning streak of the season? Which one is more? 5-game win streak.
Win streaks.
They have not lost. They have not lost more than 4, and that's the 0-4 start. They lost 3 straight.
Oh wow,
damn,
that's a stat.
That's big.
Because one of the things that we continue to say, Rod, we talked about this the last couple years, is who are they after a couple losses? And last year, obviously, they piled up. And there was a lot of different factors where you could see that the team really didn't have the rotation pieces necessary to really stave that off, and they didn't have it from the coaching. This season, they've put that all together, and they've been able to stave off going on those long losing streaks, which I believe we have to say is helping to bolster what they are right now. And I think that their ability to build that confidence over time right now, along with the chemistry that they have, all these other teams around them are looking very, very dysfunctional. Indiana has surprised me, but it's because they're not as dysfunctional. They're one of the teams that has their horses ready to go, but there's a lot of other teams there where I believe the Pistons, in my opinion, are firmly setting a 6th seed.
Yeah, and the low point of the season, 11-17. What are they since that? 17-9, and that includes that little streak where they won 10 out of 12. They won at Phoenix, at the Lakers, at the Kings. In that little spurt, they only lost to Denver, and I think Indiana was the other one that they lost there. And this is the 3rd time they've been over 500. So all of that is to say they're at the height of their season, the peak of their season, where they can start running a few of these games off. They beat Chicago tonight. They go in at 3 games over 500 and come out of the break still on a kind of road trip. They got San Antonio. They got a few other games, but we talked about the strength of schedule in the second half of the season. This is very much possible that we're talking about a 6 seed, 5 seed, something like that, if they can get on the run.
I think everything that you just said in terms of them possibly getting a 3 games over 500 going into the All-Star break, the difficulty of the schedule, 5 or 6 seed. I think this all relates to what I'm about to ask. Is Cade Cunningham a legitimate MVP candidate, like to actually win the whole bleeping thing?
Tell me where they finish. They finish as the 3 seed in the East. I can consider it if they're the 3 seed. To go from the worst record in franchise history to go to the 3 seed, we can sit down at the table and have that conversation.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you see the effect that he's having on winning this year because, Rod, we heard for a couple years, like, oh, is Cade affecting winning? We heard this from a lot of different detractors. And I know Flannel said myself, sometimes, as what you did to this desk one time with your head, we all wanted to do the same thing. It's like, bro, find brick wall and just bang it into it because it's like, we know the level of player that Cade Cunningham is, but to see it finally starting to play out this way, where he's not just taking the leap individually and the team is taking a marginal step forward, which we would have all been okay with, but the leap he's taken is like nuclear and the team is following right along behind him as well. And even looking at a guy like Malik Beasley, who's played with some pretty good players in his career, right? Yeah. He was just with Giannis. But his best career, his best years over the last 5 seasons is right here. And some of his best numbers for his career, when you just look across it, including his advanced stats, like his highest PER, his player efficiency rating in his career is here with Cade Cunningham. And that's something that I'm starting to see with a lot of these players. It's not just the coaching and the development that I believe is helping them take the step forward. I think it's the maturation and the leadership and the facilitation of a Cade Cunningham because nobody can do anything with them. That same hand, reverse pivot spin, it's ignorant, Rod.
It's butter.
He did that like 4 times, and sometimes he's doing it in positions where I'm like, I would get benched if I did that. Like he would just doop-de-doop like his Globetrotters. And then it's right at the rim, and now he's finishing like, hey, you're not going to give me foul calls. I don't care anymore. It's layup on your face, bro. Like what he's doing right now, I continue to ask, like, I don't know how much more his ceiling is this year, but he's already unguardable. And that's why I do think it's a fair question that that Flannel's asking.
Well, it's different when you got fully functional legs and you don't feel pain and you don't have other injuries and you got and no shade to any previous Pistons teams, but you have a legitimate veteran squad with shooters around him. And Brandon, we've been saying this since the beginning of the pod in the Cade zone. If you put pieces around Cade, he will thrive. He is not a go out and score 40 every game. He is like last night. Give me 20, 6, and 7. And that's kind of an off game for him. That's not even a really good game.
That's almost his pedestrian games.
Right. That's his, I played, but I got 26 and 7. It is very much a 25 kind of 9 assists and 7 rebounds is his average this year. That's more of what he needs to be, but you need pieces around him. You need a roller like a Jalen Duren. You need a three-point shooter. You need professional kind of wings like a Tobias and a Tim Hardaway to kind of make this work. And a defender, so he doesn't have to be the main defender and wear himself out throughout the game. So you bring in Asar, you bring in some other guys, Ron Holland, who can help with some of that. And now you got Dennis Schroeder who can guard those smaller guards. Yeah, this has all of the makings of being a really good turnaround year and a playoff year, not play-in year. And I mean, I'll say I was wrong. I will continue to say it. I was wrong at the beginning of the year. I said, if these things happen, the chemistry works. And we see that the chemistry works. We see what the locker room looks like and all of these guys playing together and wanting to play together, wanting to be together. Who says don't trade me at the trade deadline? Who says that?
Yeah,
because
Detroit
is not Detroit is not a place where free agents want to come, and they might be changing that narrative a little bit.
I think that they are. I really definitely believe that they are. And shout out to JB Bickerstaff and everything that he's doing as well. But KG, what up, though?
Right, I tried to tell you. My initial prediction was 35. Then I brought you 38. And, we kind of had a good chuckle about it. But I was being for real.
You were right.
I was being for real. But, no, seriously. And Koolaid had brought up Malik Beasley, who is just having an amazing season. And shout out to Weezy D313 in the chat. He calls him the best free agent signing in Pistons history. And at this point, I mean, it's kind of debatable. I mean, it really is, man. When you look at just what he's been able to do for this Pistons lineup, I mean, we all knew he was a good shooter, but I don't think anybody was expecting to get the Malik Beasley that we've gotten. It's almost like he's taken another step in terms of his game and just the level of intensity that he brings to the court. What do you attribute to that? Is it just the fact that he has a great distributor in Cade Cunningham? Is it JB Bickerstaff working some of his magic? Is it Fred Vincent? Can you tell me what is behind the Malik Beasley that we're seeing as a Detroit Piston?
Oh, that boy just be wide open.
Yeah, well, that's part of it too.
And even when he's not wide open, they get him the ball in the right spots. This is just really situational and circumstantial that you find the right team at the right time. And I remember the Sadiq Bey year and thinking, like, Sadiq is on one. This
yeah, man, what?
He was pulling from everywhere. And Malik is there with 28 games left. Like, when Sadiq broke that record, it was a big deal. Like, this is the 3-point record for the Pistons. And 20-something, we're not even at the All-Star break.
Yeah,
we're talking about him breaking this record.
Yeah, and I do want to be fair to Rod. You know, one of the things, especially as writers and people who want to make sure that you told me when we are, you know, making sure that we have our audience up to date on what we believe, make sure we sit on the right way. Hey, wait for that 20 to 30 game mark, and then you're able to lock in more or less those predictions. But KG was one of the more bullish, and the rest of the crew too. They all picked higher win totals than I to start the season, and it's awesome to see because there were also a lot of fans who were very, very bullish on the Pistons. Man, I got a whole lot of receipts, and it was awesome to see. But when we talk about a Malik Beasley, one of the cool things about him too is he's shooting almost 41% up from behind the arc on
a lot of attempts.
Yeah, 9.5, almost 10 attempts again.
Jesus
Rod,
Christ.
this is his highest amount. I'm looking through it. His highest amount of 3-point makes and his highest amount of 3-point attempts in his entire career. He's getting more efficient, and he's played more minutes in other years. That's what I'm saying. Like, this offense is so fast. And one of the things I know he's aided by, and really all this team, Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, is how quickly they're able to turn defense into offense. This team is grabbing a rebound off, and they're just boom, up the court quickly. They're throwing lobs to each other. And point to Asar, anything Asar. Any position Pizarro, bro. Like, Asar Thompson right now is going out there and absolutely setting the tone from a physicality standpoint, both defensively and on the offensive side. To see him just continue to punish people. Like, I'm walking to the rim and I'm dunking it. You can go along for the ride. That, to me, was pretty impressive for a guy who's been trying to just get his rhythm back all season long.
Yeah, things are just coming together, absolutely. And on the Malik Beasley piece, again, it is you have the greenest of green lights to shoot because we trust your shot selection and that you're going to make the right decisions on which shots are there, and they're just falling. But again, this is what we said. Cade needs a 3-point shooter who's in the 39-44% range. And he's not starting. So some of this is just you need him to be in that second group and be the leader of that second group. And we've gone back and forth. Should he start? Should he not start? No, let him be. Don't fix what isn't broken. And Malik Beasley is not broken by any stretch of the imagination.
Speaking of veteran free agent signings, Rod, what do you think of the resurgence of Tobias Harris lately, and how much do you think that can affect the team moving forward in a positive way if he keeps it up?
Run tape.
Yes, Rod did tell us.
He was
at the beginning of the year that he will settle into at the right time. He will settle into it. It can impact the rest of the season immensely if he continues to be 18, 20 point a game Tobias, because it takes some of the pressure off, and it means that starting unit is getting out to leads probably. If Cade is scoring, Tim is scoring, and you're getting something from Jalen Duren. Anything Tobias adds to that means that instead of being down 10 or 15, you're within 5 points or you're up a few points on some of these teams. And that matters in games like last night. In a Chicago game where they had played you tough a little bit last couple weeks ago on the first, now you're talking about being way ahead, and now just, hey, can you hold on to a 30-point lead? Okay, cool. So that veteran leadership and that veteran consistency was one of the keys to make this whole thing work. And now we're starting to see that a little bit more, especially with Tobias.
I mean, Rod, this is a little different. He out there playing defense too. Like, come on now. We you know Tobias don't play no defense, but this is crazy. But I got to get your opinion on what you've seen from Jalen Duren so far as well, because he is somebody that at the beginning of the year we were very critical of, and somebody that we felt like just needed to show us a little bit more. And even he went to the podium, over the last couple games and said, I was playing soft. I wasn't really going out there and doing,
He used a lot of coarse language.
Yeah, exactly. But he said I was playing on some soft-ish, So what is your takeaway from Jalen Duren? What are some of the things that you've seen in his improvement so far this year?
I think it's the mental side of the game, that recognizing that yourself. When people say stuff on social media or your teammates are talking to you or whatever, you just, you can brush that off. But when you realize that yourself and you can go out and change that, that's what shows the maturity. But then that's also going to make you a better player. When you say, looking at this tape, I could have done this. I could have rotated over and helped out or run down the court a little bit faster and hustled or dove for that loose ball. All of those things start to play in. But again, I think some of that is having those vets around. If this is last year, I don't think he has that epiphany. I don't think he realizes that the same sort of way. Monty's not going to get in his face and tell him that. Maybe JB did. I don't know, but maybe he did. Maybe one of the assistants did. It's the people who are around you who can help to reinforce those messages.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get that video. If I can find it today, I will shoot it over to JB, where Jalen Duren was going through practice, and the first time he was just kind of going, making the layups, making a little bit of dunks, and he was doing his drills where he would catch the ball out about 16 feet from the rim and have to drive in and make the layup with the trainers there. Last year, I don't ever remember them being physical. This year, they're getting physical in the shoot-arounds, bro, in the practices. They're getting they're agitating him, and he's getting pissed. I'm like, well, it's your coach, but he's getting pissed, and he's like, no, give me the ball. Snatched the ball and then dunked on him. And it's just like to see that, just the differences in between the way that the practices were run last year versus this year. I see that these things, why it's translating to the court, man. And they look happier. They look bouncier. Obviously the start last year, it was weird.
Winning, man.
They're winning. But you remember last year, we started training camp with questions of Jaden Ivey. We started with him, Monty Williams, literally serving up like we ordered it. Killian Hayes quotes. We asked about Monte Morris and Jaden Ivey. He was like, yeah, but that Killian though. We were like, oh boy. I remember looking at Omari Sankofa, the Free Press, and Mike Curtis. Shout out Mike Curtis, was with the Detroit News at the time. Like, what in the world? Why is he talking about Killian? And Mike was like, he was like, I don't know, Brandon. It was just like, man, it's different. It's night and day. What those coaches are doing, what's going on in the practices is night and day, Rod. And I see it out there in the performance.
When you say Killian Hayes, doesn't it sound like 10 years ago that we were talking about
I swear it do. I swear it does, right?
That was ages ago. Like, you can say Killian Hayes and Finis Dimbo, and they sound like they're in the same time frame.
Right.
Killian Hayes was not 10 years ago. That's crazy.
What up, though, KG?
Like him and Sekou in the same class, man. Oh, my God. But, I got to ask you, because I don't think we spoke to you since the trade deadline. I wanted to ask you about the Dennis Schroeder move. And, of course, he's had a limited sample size so far. We haven't really seen him ingrain himself into this team yet. But I expect a lot of good things from him. I like some of the early signs. And just the fact that you have another ball handler in that locker room, I think is going to go a long way for this Pistons team. But just give me your take on what you thought the Dennis Schroeder trade was when it first happened. How are you liking him, on playing with the bench unit so far?
I was wondering when all of these names are bouncing around. I'm like, wait, Dennis Schroeder.
I saw your tweet. You put it out there.
That's somebody who could absolutely be a good fit with the Pistons. Let me check this salary. Oh, this salary isn't crazy. All right. We'll let the dust settle. And always around trade deadline, let the dust settle before you have these immediate reactions, because people were very much KJ Barton. KJ Martin?
Yeah.
No, not KJ Martin. Josh Richardson? No, not bro.
No, that one I was really like that.
Well, Rod, you remember the Jeremy Grant deal when it was just Jeremy Grant for like a low first round draft pick, and everyone lost their mind. Bro, Rod texts me literally like, "Let the smoke settle. Like, just let it settle. There's more to this." And then we wound up with what? Jalen Duren and some other fixings. That's what that deal was a part of as well. And I was like, "Oh yeah, we'd much rather have this. Definitely much rather have this." So he's been on point with these types of things at these deadlines.
No, and you just have to wait. But I think another veteran presence on that bench unit will help. And you can see I'll say it's coincidental that Marcus Sasser had the game that he had when Dennis Schroeder is here and playing in a more defined role, a more specific role. But
that's what we've been saying for 2 years.
It puts things into place when you have people in their right positions, when you have the other pieces around them. This is looking like a real roster now with people who do specific things and not just hoping Tech is going to start playing D, but you have other people who can play D. Everybody's in the position that they need to be in, and that's why you're starting to see a little bit more success.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Marcus Sasser in that last point, because that's been one of the most constant refrains. And sometimes I don't even know how loud do you get with this, because he is a bench rotation player, but I think he's a very important player if utilized properly. And last night you saw him across the board. He didn't miss a shot. 5 of 5, 4 of 4 from behind the arc, and it was the way that he did it. You're right. Put him in that combo guard role. I don't need Marcus Sasser thinking to do anything except for get buckets. People don't stay in front of him. And last night you saw him in a bevy of ways, hitting the step backs, coming off the pick and rolls, because it was just a defined role. If I know, all I got to think about is this shot that I know is probably going to be one of the best shots on the team, versus, okay, now I got to come off the pick and roll and survey. I like him just playing and facilitating off of what his offense can create. And I saw a person last night that looked like he had that type of freedom and flexibility with the minutes that he had.
And by extension, same thing with Jaden Ivey. You don't need him to facilitate. And people want to push him, well, it's a backup point guard. Jaden Ivey could be. Sure, he could. But he is a 2. He is a traditional 2. You can make him a combo guard if you want to, but he will get to the basket. It's not about his passing. It's about his scoring and his speed and ability to get to the rim.
Yeah, and you know what, Rod, before we wrap up, because I appreciate you. I know you have some meetings today, and you still made the effort to accommodate the schedule. Just a post-All-Star break outlook, because I know we're going to talk a little bit in the second segment about Pistons as well, and just their ceiling, and as well as bring some All-Star news. But just post-All-Star break outlook, obviously they're within play. It's not out of pocket to talk about the 4th seed for the Detroit Pistons, but obviously the team that's occupying that spot right now is one that's punched us in the nose a couple times. But this Detroit Pistons team looks a little bit different, especially with the way that Koolaid, Beasley, and the rest of this team offensively, like a SAR. Just, it's almost like we've been given a new player already. So just your post-All-Star break outlook for these Detroit Pistons.
The schedule is, it can make it happen. It could be there. Coming out of the break, you're playing at the Spurs and at Atlanta. Can you split those? Absolutely. Clippers, Celtics, Nuggets. You got the Nets, Jazz, Clippers, and Warriors and Blazers. It's always a West Coast trip, so that's always a little bit troublesome. But are you going into Utah and winning? Yeah, probably.
Yes,
can you go win at the Clipper spot? Yeah. Golden State, are they scaring you right now? Not at all. And Portland, you could sweep the West Coast trip, conceivably. When was the last time you were able to say that? That you could walk into the Jazz, right? Clippers, Warriors, and Blazers and feel like you could win that thing.
These were always your litmus tests. I remember doing the pods when I was just a young tyke, and so you were like, talk to me after the West Coast trip, Koolaid.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm serious.
But right after that, 2 games against the Wizards, you play the Thunder at home. Even if you lose that, your next road trip, Pelicans, Heat, Mavs. Are you afraid of that?
You gotta win.
Not at all.
Man,
So all of that to say is in the next maybe 15 games or so, can they go 10-5? Possibly. It's there. You could be eight games over 500. That's talking 4 seed at that point.
Man.
So the schedule very much sets up where that could be it. And the last 2 games
Wait,
of the
bro.
season,
You talking about home court advantage? First round?
Stop it.
I brought this up in.
I'm gonna pour water on all this. The last 2 games are against the Bucks.
Oh, well,
so
be big
that
boys,
could be a
Pistons.
determiner. That could be a determiner of that 4-5 seed. It could be the Pistons in the 6 seed playing the Knicks in the 3 seed.
Ooh, Madison
All of-
Square
but-
K, dog.
What if we not said in any of this conversation, play in? Those are 2 words that we have not put together in this conversation at all.
That's worst case
We're not
scenario
even
now at
talking
this
about the
point.
play-in.
Ryan don't even know.
Yeah,
He's
like
throwing
if
up the
you-
lob for the next segment already. He don't even know.
If you play a little bit below 500, you're talking about play-in, and we haven't talked about it at all today. That's how far we've come.
Listen, I brought this up in the Swisher Brick question. I tried to say, after All-Star break, this team could really do something. Rod, just say they gonna win 40 games, man. It's okay. Just say they gonna win 40 plus. It's all right.
Where we at?
28 and 26.
28.
That's 12 more games.
They're gonna win 40 games.
Hey, let's go, boy. Fight it
They're gonna
up.
win 30 games.
Right, you know what? Flannel, just really quickly to your outlook. Or do you want to give it on the other side of the break?
You know what? Let's give it on the other side
Yeah,
of the break.
we'll
Rod,
tease
I know
that,
you
man.
got places to be, but we always appreciate you.
When in doubt, just ask KG. If you want to know what I think, just go ask.
There
KG.
you go. There you go. Great
go.
minds think alike.
That's like probably some of the highest praise you've got in your life from Rod
Yeah,
Beard.
no,
man. Come on.
absolutely.
That's an absolute legend.
But listen, I'm a first round pick for a reason.